Welcome back into the Dead Arm Sports Podcast, something we don't do too often on a Friday. Happy
Ow!
almost weekend to everybody out there. No
Live and
no
in charge.
no college games to look forward to this weekend outside of Go Army, beat Navy, but that's about it.
The old this is the effectively the college game day bowl that they go to every year.
Every year, yep. As they should.
Yes, they should. Yes, absolutely.
Shout out to the military. Absolutely. All right, Joe. Question of the day today is a pretty simple one. What's your favorite dessert?
Cookies and cream ice cream is up. I mean, that's my favorite ice cream flavor is just cookies and cream, Oreo pieces and the vanilla ice cream. But favorite overall dessert, it's hard to beat like a molten lava cake.
Okay.
I mean, I love a good cherry pie. That's my favorite pie. My cake preferences are pretty tame. I like the confetti batter with white frosting and sprinkles. So I just like to see all the colors. Overall favorite dessert? I don't know. Maybe that molten lava cake with like a scoop of ice, the hot molten lava cake.
Cookies and cream ice cream.
That's pretty with cookies and cream ice cream. That's probably gonna take the cake here. Maybe you'll inspire me with your choice. Why don't you take the lead here?
Yeah, mine is one that I feel like you either like it or you don't. It's a cake. A cheesecake.
Cherry cheesecake.
I love any kind of cheesecake.
Cherry cheesecake, graham cracker crust.
Cheesecake.
Ooh, so hard to beat.
I like strawberry. Strawberry for me.
Strawberry's your.
Yep.
I go cheesecake. Cherry. Cherry's my cherry pie, cherry cheesecake. That's my of those two. But all right, I feel you there. What you got any OLI outside looking in?
Cookies or cookie dough ice cream. Cookie dough ice cream is so good.
Cookie dough ice cream.
I could eat the whole container.
All right. Well, Culver's.
Oh, I think we had this combo. Mine is
I
just
think we
drummy.
did. Oh,
just
we did
drummy.
For sure. Because I said caramel cashew. Now, do you dive into the lemon ice during the summer?
Yes, I do like lemon ice.
Hell yeah, it's so good.
Fun story about lemon ice. When I was in college back in the day, it was like the summer, I think, that Culver's like had first started coming out with the lemon ices. We knew that they were a summer thing, but we'd go through the drive-through in the middle of winter and be like, yeah, we'll have 2 lemon ices. And the person's like, sorry, we don't have any lemon ice this time of year. We just yell, fuck, and then we drive away. Wouldn't order anything else. So we just mess with the people there, knowing that
is rowdy.
They didn't have lemon
sit in line just to do.
No, it was just like if there's no one else in line, we wouldn't sit in line and wait for him. But yeah, the stupid things you do when you're dumb. That? Well, this is when I was at lacrosse, and the Culver's was way out of town over by the highway. So anytime you ran out to like go run errands or had to go to the mall or grocery shop or anything like that, just drive by and so I don't know, once a month maybe or something like that.
They probably like this guy again.
Glad it wasn't my car.
It's so great that you wouldn't order anything else.
Yeah, we just leave.
There's no substitute. It was just lemon ice or bust in the middle of December.
Great.
That is amazing.
Yes.
That is great. Oh my gosh.
We could be found at Dead Arm Sports.
That might be one of those. I mean, we've got, me working at the Culver's in Stoughton for a few years. We've got people that we still talk about all the time. I mean, that's going back over a decade or so. Guy coming through, no salt on the fries. Guy would I need a BLT extra bacon meal, no salt on the fries. We still talk about that like a decade and a half later.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure we gave the
I'm sure
that there a good laugh.
So what I'm saying is they probably talk about that. Like,
yes.
fuck. Just driving off.
Yes. Or the other classic when we're in high school on lunch break quick, and we go to the old McDonald's in town and they're like, can I help you? What would you like? Just from the passenger seat, lay on the horn. Every time somebody tried to order, just lay on the horn. You couldn't hear anything. Oh, such an asshole.
Teenagers are terrible.
I know. It's so stupid. Oh, sorry to anybody out there that I did that to.
Especially because the people working those like lunch shifts at McDonald's, like they want nothing to do with that.
No.
I'm sweating. That's horrible.
Yes. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Go to YouTube, type in Dead Arm Sports.
Friday.
Subscribe, click the bell. That way you know when our live episodes drop. You can watch our replays there as well. We monitor that chat. You can ask us any questions there. If you want to ask us questions outside of recording, Gel can be found at DasGel. That's at DASJEL. I can be found at DasJPEC. That's at DASJPEC. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot, get you some swag sent over for free. Again, it mentioned no games this weekend outside of Army Navy, but figured this would be a good opportunity before we dive into our Bowl Mania pick'em that we're going to be doing over the next couple weeks. I want to recap the season a little bit. We're going to talk about surprise teams, disappointing teams, surprise players, disappointing players, and then just pick out maybe one or two bowl games that we're looking forward to just because can be any reason for it. But we'll go ahead and kick off our surprising team here. So, Gel, throw it over to you. What team, I guess, surprised you the most, or who do you have nominated for this category?
I mean, I've really got three teams that actually showed up and were really nice this year. Florida State finally recovering to a 9-win squad, and Oregon State with a 9-win squad. Those are really, really, look at where Florida State was 2 seasons ago. Mike Norvell's really helped to turn that around. I don't know what kind of, their offense really was just their quarterback running, but a 9-win squad from Florida State. I don't know if I can't necessarily say they're back, but they're on the right track, which kind of, they've been awful disappointments over the previous few seasons. So I gotta give Florida State some love. Oregon State, the Beavs, gotta give them some love. Their offensive coordinator ended up getting that head coaching job at Arizona State, I believe it, right?
Oregon, the Ducks.
That was the Ducks.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. But Oregon State's defense has been phenomenal this year too. And you saw that game against USC where they had limited USC's some offense there too. So 17-14
final against USC, which against that offense is nuts. So really got to give Oregon State some props there. And then especially the way they ended up finishing that season. I'd love to go attend a game there on campus in Corvallis, because that looked like a blast to be at that game. It's a pretty small stadium.
Half the stadium. They're renovating the other half.
So we get but ultimately, biggest surprise team has to go for me, TCU. Just they were, they'd kind of been kind of middle of the road, or really kind of bottom half of the Big 12 for the last few years under Gary Patterson. Sonny Dykes comes in, really transforms that team, really embraces Max Duggan and that offense, those offensive pieces. That defense got a really nice jump. So I think TCU overall, who had TCU in the playoff this year? Nobody. Obviously. Certainly. So I got to give TCU as my biggest surprise team, although outside looking in, Florida State, got to give some love to Florida State and Oregon State for their seasons. But TCU, nobody saw this coming. And it's, I mean, number 3 team in the country, 1 loss in the Big 12 championship game. That's about as good as it gets for a TCU squad that really had no expectations.
Yeah, that's my surprise team too. I mean, they relieved longtime head coach Gary Patterson of his duties last year, and Sonny Dykes coming over and leading this team to an almost undefeated season. 1 loss heading into the college football playoff. Max Duggan being in Heisman contention. I mean, they weren't a team really that was on our radar at the beginning of the season to win this Big 12. We were talking Texas. We were talking, well, Oklahoma lost Lincoln Riley. Maybe they jump in. Oklahoma State. I mean, you name it. Yeah. And we weren't really talking about them.
I mean, I think I pegged Oklahoma State as thinking they were going to end up winning the conference.
Well, and even earlier on, I mean, halfway through the season, we weren't talking TCU. We were talking Kansas. Kansas was off to an unbelievable run. So, I mean, even halfway through the season, we still really weren't talking TCU. And they just kept proving everybody wrong each week and got into the playoff. And yeah, they're head over heels my surprise team. Honorable mention, I'm going to throw Tennessee in there. Hendon Hooker, they had a tough loss against South Carolina. Hooker tore his ACL and is out for the season now, but they had such a fun run. I mean, that was such a fun team to watch. Had one of the best games of the season, that win against Alabama, a field goal at the end of the game, seeing Tennessee storm the field, rip down the goalposts. I mean, just an absolutely unbelievable season from those Tennessee Volunteers. So that was another honorable mention there. Unfortunately, they're on the outside looking in, still get a New Year's Six bowl. So great season for them and can jumpstart their program. We'll see next year what that entails. They're going to be losing some guys to the NFL draft, but ultimately a good season for them too.
Yeah. I mean, just jumping back really quick to Oklahoma State. They started off that season undefeated until that loss to TCU. And then they come back the next week and end up beating Texas. But then beyond that, Kansas State blows them out 48-0, and then they just go on a free fall basically from there. You know, losses to Kansas, or Kansas State, then lost to Kansas, barely beat up that poor Iowa State team. And then what was it? I guess 3 weeks ago now, lost to Oklahoma, who was just pathetic. So it's like, I don't know, maybe it wasn't the TCU game that was the turning point, given that they came back and the next week and beat Texas, but they ended up going on a free fall.
Yeah. Before we get into the disappointing team, one of my buddies just texted me. We've had a lot of players entering the transfer portal this last week. It's been kind of, you go on Twitter, you go on social media, and there's just stuff everywhere about it. But this fine young gentleman, Dylan Johnson of Mississippi State, posted on Twitter today. I'll read through it quick. So he says, first and foremost, I'd like to thank God for giving me the opportunity to showcase my talents at the college level. Without him, I'm nothing. Secondly, I would like to thank my family and friends for the endless love and support they have shown me throughout the season. To Mississippi State University, my teammates, trainers, and amazing fans, it has been an honor to participate in this program with you all. Together, you guys have helped me build my character and skills tremendously. Then he goes on to say, with that said, since I'm not very tough and Leach is glad I'm leaving, I will be entering my name into the transfer portal with the hopes of finding a more fitting playing environment for me. Thank you. So nothing like going out with two middle fingers.
That is a double middle finger right at Leach.
So, yeah, I had to throw that in there. I thought that was hilarious.
That is amazing.
So my disappointing team, I'll kick this one off. You might have the same one for me, Joe. It's got to be Texas A&M. Texas A&M had a top recruiting class coming in this season. Yes, freshmen don't always translate to performances on the field, and in this case, it did not. But to finish 5-7, ranked number 6 at the beginning of the season, don't even make a bowl game. You've got one of the highest paid head coaches in all of football to not make a bowl game. Just, I mean, I don't know how it gets more disappointing than that. I mean, Texas A&M for me took the cake.
I mean, we all knew that number 6, or at least you and I knew that number 6 preseason ranking was a travesty. That was an absolute joke. But to not even make a bowl game, like less wins than that ranking, which was a 6. That's insane. Haynes King was, he came in as a really high-end recruit, and he just never panned out into anything. You think Jimbo, hey, he won a national title with Florida State. Turns out he's probably not a very good coach, maybe just a good recruiter, and has great boosters that are willing to pay up for the top incoming class. But it shows like you can have a great recruiting class. This is what we said from the very beginning. Great recruiting class for incoming freshmen. What the hell does that matter? You got a ton of teams here that have had guys on campus for 3-4 years. So I never understood that number 6 ranking, but for them to not even make a bowl game, that's extremely pathetic.
Yeah.
I'll jump into mine. I've got I've got 2 here, and massive disappointment, obviously, the Oklahoma Sooners. They did make a bowl game at least, but you don't expect that big of a drop off. Bringing in Brett Venables, who was, he'd been in that Clemson system as that DC or on that defensive side of the ball for a long time under Dabo. And I think the hope was, hey, they've had some strong defenses in the past, at least a lot of really, really good, in terms of recruiting, done a really nice job. And Brett Venables had been a part of that.
One of the best coordinators in the country too. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, you would have thought that he comes in and maybe they're not going to be gangbusters and go get themselves 11 wins right off the bat. But for them to finish where they did, which was completely non-competitive, at least when it comes to, the top end of the Big 12, that's brutal. They just lost to West Virginia this 2 weeks ago to finish off their regular season, and they're horrible. So, Oklahoma is just bad, but incoming coach from Clemson, you think that they're going to be nice. I've got a second one that I want to bring up, which is the Miami Hurricanes. Mario Cristobal comes over, and obviously he'd done a lot of work with that Oregon program post Chip Kelly, I believe there was one other coach in between them, and he made that Oregon program really strong again.
Wasn't it? I think it was
Helfrich. Yep, good call. And he turned that Oregon program back around into another, maybe not a powerhouse, but high-end team, finishing in the top 15. For him to go to Miami, which that's where he went to school, Miami area, that Miami-Dade County, that's home for him. And for them to, again, another team didn't make a bowl, extremely disappointing for that Miami squad. And thinking that, hey, we got Tyler Van Dyke, he was thought of in the preseason as a potential Heisman candidate, potential first round NFL draft pick. That's not going to happen anymore. It's just extremely disappointing from that Miami squad. And they lost to Middle Tennessee State. Like, that's rock bottom, man. That's
home.
At home. Middle Tennessee State. So I think that's rock bottom for that Canes program, at least this season. They were better under what's the guy's fucking name? Previous head coach.
Yep. I got nothing.
But no, just massive disappointment coming from Miami this season. I honestly think that was more disappointing than Oklahoma's season was the Canes, because you just think Mario Cristobal, he's coming home, he's gonna get his guys, he's gonna be able to, rally around that Miami vibe. He knows it better than anybody, given that he played there and grew up there. And for them to not even make a bowl, extreme disappointment.
Oh, my honorable mention, I threw the Badgers in there, man. That Big Ten West was winnable this year. They had a nice schedule too. It wasn't super tough non-conference schedule. Didn't play a ton of the big teams in the Big Ten. They had it game at Ohio State, you knew they weren't going to win, but lose to Washington State, you're like, okay, Cam Ward coming over from Incarnate Word, like, okay, he's been hyped up, that's fine. But you lose at home in a shellacking to Brett Bielema's Illinois team, you fire your head coach. It just was not the season that you wanted to see. They obviously have some new direction now, but made a bowl game, but still, it was a year that even with you not being at obviously near the top of how your program should be, still could have walked away with the Big Ten West, probably should have, but just did not get the performance from some of the key guys that they needed to this year.
Well, you could say, if you look at the preseason schedule, we could have ran that schedule outside of Ohio State. I mean, there weren't any tough teams outside of Ohio State on that schedule.
Maybe Michigan State at the time, but Michigan State's not making a bowl game.
Well, Michigan State's throw Michigan State on there as an OLI. Yep. Like they had a crap season. You know, you think Mel Tucker after
Tuck coming.
God damn, Kenneth Walker. I guess he made that big of a difference on that squad. Holy moly, which is understandable given that boost that he gave that he gave the Seahawks in that backfield. But dude, that's enough. Throw them on outside looking in as big as disappointments too, because Michigan State looked like they were going to be really nasty again this season. But yeah, I mean, Badgers. Glad Graham Mertz is out. That's all I got to say.
Surprising players where we're headed next. Who surprised you this year, Joe?
I mean, I'm going to throw in there Michael Penix.
That's who I have too.
There you go. Ended up being the top passer in the country, and he was really nice with Indiana for sure. Top half of the conference, you know, you always, when you'd face Indiana, know that you'd have to put up points because Penix did have the ability to light you up. But for him to then transfer to Washington and lead the country in passing, I did not see that coming. And he is coming back for his final season. I don't know how he still has eligibility left.
It's crazy.
That COVID year screwed up everything, gave everybody an additional year of eligibility. But Penix, 4,600 yards, leading the country in passing. That's extremely impressive. And I knew he was good. I didn't know he was this good. So massive props to Mr. Michael Penix.
Yeah, no, that's who I have written down too. He was really fun to watch. You mentioned 4,300 yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 picks, and another 4 on the ground, and led that Washington Huskies to a very nice season. Not one of their better ones they've had of late, but still a respectable season. And yeah, it was amazing seeing him coming back for another year. You wonder about eligibility sometimes, but then you look at some of the other guys that have been, we were talking, some of them have been in the league since 2018. We were referring to in some of our text messages. Fun fact, my fun fact of the day, I tweeted out today that Stetson Bennett and Lamar Jackson were both born in the same year. And one's been in the league for a lot longer than the other one.
Lamar Jackson won the Heisman in 2016. Stetson Bennett is a Heisman candidate in 2022. Just wrap that around your brain. That's crazy.
Yes, but no, Michael Penix is going to be fun to watch. That Pac-12, I mean, we had the news Deion Sanders is taking over Colorado, and he's going to be getting a lot of transfers coming into Colorado. So we'll see what that does with their program. But Pac-12 is going to be a fun program and fun conference to watch next year. One more year of USC, UCLA before they jump to the Big Ten, but should go out with a bang and have a lot of fun teams to watch.
While we're on Deion, I mean, do you have just general thoughts here on what kind of impact you think he's going to make? Do you think season 1 he makes Colorado even somewhat viable? What do you consider a win with Deion? Because you could make an argument that Colorado's maybe the worst Power 5 football
it's definitely
school,
a top 10 worst for sure.
Like easily in the top 10.
Well, we've already seen a number of guys that have wanted to transfer in right now. His son's going to be coming over to play quarterback. I believe, what was is it Justin Hunter? Who's the
Travis Hunter?
Travis Hunter. He's going to be making the jump over. We saw, was it Trey Sanders? I think the running back from Alabama tweeted out, Hey coach, I want to come in and play for you in Colorado. So,
and he was Trey Sanders
right
is a really high end recruit.
Yeah. So I think you're going to see
4 or 5 star guy.
You're going to see a lot of 3, 4, maybe a couple 5 stars going to Colorado. I don't know how that's necessarily going to translate. I mean, still obviously have to come together as a team, and still Pac-12 is tough, but
Pac-12 made a massive rise.
Yes.
With Utah being legit, Oregon State being legit, USC now finally
UCLA
legit.
Was good this year.
UCLA, Arkansas, or Arizona actually had a nice season. Like, the Pac-12's on the rise at the wrong time with USC and UCLA leaving, but maybe that means these other schools finally have are going to have another, more of an opportunity to make it. But I mean, if you can lead Colorado to a 500 record in your first season, if you're Deion, you got to count that as a win. It might feel like a loss because you ended up going undefeated with Jackson State this season, but that would be massive. That would be a massive victory for a Colorado school. And shoot, if he's able to do that, maybe next year there's other bigger schools calling. But Deion's been, I mean, from what I've heard and what I've, read and stuff, Deion, he comes off as this personality of just prime, he's prime time. He's putting on a personality, and he's just, kind of this big hot shot, whatever. Doesn't seem like his personality, at least what you see on TV, is like, I'm prime time. I'm the best. I'm whatever. But that dude, back in the NFL, he practiced his ass off. He was the first guy in meetings. He was always sitting up front in meetings. Like this guy preps like a mother. So I think he's probably a pretty legit coach if he would prep like that and everything. And I don't know. I mean, especially if you're a defensive player, why wouldn't you want to play for Deion? So no, exactly. I think the fact that he's going to Colorado, I think it probably is still just a second stepping stone to another big job. But hey, I mean, if anybody, I mean, he's already making the rise from Jackson State, undefeated Jackson State, to now into the Power 5, and who knows what's next for him.
Yep. So I like I mentioned, I had Michael Penix down. Honorable mention, Drake May, North Carolina. Stats: threw for over 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns, 7 picks, added another 650 on the ground, 7 touchdowns. So future's bright for North Carolina, assuming he stays there, doesn't enter the portal. But yeah, taken over for Sam Howell this last year, who obviously Sam Howell had huge expectations going into his senior year and didn't live up to it last year. But Drake May came back and showed that, hey, I'm the next guy here at North Carolina, and put up some really solid numbers this year.
Yeah, I mean, based on what May did this year, we're looking at, assuming Drake May can maintain that the performance that he put on this season, we're probably looking at, if he comes out after next year, probably we could be looking at Caleb Williams 1 overall, Drake May number 2 overall. I mean, these guys are both ballers, and that wouldn't shock me one bit.
Yep.
I gotta throw in one honorable mention here. Marvin Harrison Jr. started off the year as the number 4 receiver at Ohio State and exploded into probably the best receiver in the nation, if not definitively the number 1 receiver in the nation. I mean, Ohio State always has ballin' wide receivers, but so he was originally pegged behind Jackson Smith and Jigba, who did miss most of the season due to injury, and Julian Fleming, a junior, who basically flamed out and really never turned into much, and was also behind Emeka Egbuka, so he started off this season as the number 4 receiver for Ohio State, at least based on their depth chart, and made a pretty quick rise to that taking over that number 1 spot for Ohio State, and now the number 1 receiver in the country. So pretty impressive rise. Sometimes these guys that are, sons of legends, which Marvin Harrison is, Hall of Famer, they don't always end up panning out, but looks like Marvin Jr. he's it. He's a guy.
Somebody who is not it this year, moving over to disappointing players. Talked about him on yesterday's show. Jell's favorite quarterback for the former quarterback of the Clemson Tigers, DJ Uiagalelei. Just disappointing for sure. I mean, he had high expectations when he had filled for that COVID game back in 2020 for Trevor Lawrence, and just has not looked the same the last 2 years, has not put up good stats at all. And now he got benched in the ACC championship game, got benched numerous times throughout this season to Cade Klubnik, and now is entering the transfer portal to try and right the ship, try and put up a solid season so that he can move on to the next step of his career in the NFL. The fall of this is it's been hard to watch at times. I mean, you saw that Notre Dame game, you've seen multiple games this season that just ugly, but I can't think of anybody more disappointing, at least, than DJ Uiagalelei.
First name I wrote down, DJ Uiagalelei. Yeah, I mean, he came in as the number 1 overall recruit when he came over to Clemson, not just number 1 quarterback, but number 1 overall recruit, and looked like he was supposed to be a lock as a future number 1 overall pick. He's got the size, he's got the mobility, he's got a nice, just arm in terms of strength, but he's missed a lot of he's just missing passes. He's missing easy passes. He was most effective when he would run. That's not a good sign for a future number 1 overall pick that he was pegged as. So I wonder if, I remember he tweeted out once that he wanted to be picked to a team, in the NFL, wanted to be picked to a team in the biggest market so that he could make the most money, or he was either a tweet or a direct quote from him or something like that. And that, I feel like that's a red flag right off the bat. He's already thinking about, hey, what's my NFL future going to be like? What's, how much money can I make off of this? And turns out you can't even get through the season as the starter. So
I was just hoping he could get drafted at some point.
Exactly. It's massive disappointment, and it's the wrong attitude. And hopefully this, for his own sake and for my dynasty fantasy team's sake, this will humble him, and he'll actually go to work and try wherever he transfers to and preps like a maniac and works on that accuracy and really focuses in, because and this isn't uncommon where you see a guy, Josh Rosen, for example. He was the number 1 guy. He was looked at as easy. Hey, this guy's, starting as a true freshman. He's going to be an easy number 1 overall pick. Ends up having, a mediocre career at UCLA, still ends up getting picked 10th because he had so much, 5-star, all these, I don't know how GMs think, but 5-star guy, number 1 overall before he went to college. And he just never panned out. He never worked on his game. He never improved. And I think that's what we're seeing with DJ is we never saw any improvement from Uiagalelei. And he's going to have to prove that he's worth a damn wherever he goes next, because his time's kind of running out in terms of being a number 1, or certainly number 1 overall is out the window. But even being a high-end pick or a high-round pick, I feel like he's going to have to really go off.
Yep.
I'm going to give you a guy who's still going to be probably picked in the top 5 as my most disappointed. He still ended up with 10 sacks, but I got to throw Will Anderson a little, in here a little bit. Reminds me a little bit too much of Jadeveon Clowney, where he's like, hey, I'm being highly regarded. I might be going out here and kind of half-assing it. He's, like I said, he still got 10 sacks, but he had half the number of total tackles he did last year. Last season, he had 17 and a half sacks. This year, he finishes with 10. You need to see these guys improve, especially somebody that's thinking, hey, I want to go number one overall. And it just seemed like the effort wasn't there. During that Texas game, he lined up offsides 3 times. Like, not even jumping offsides. He lined up offsides 3 times in one game. That's a red flag. That's a guy that's not paying attention to detail. And that reminds me of Jadeveon Clowney, who he had his biggest moment in his football career, not his NFL, but his entire college NFL career was him blowing up that Michigan running back.
Yeah.
Still ends up going number one. I'm sure Will Anderson will still end up going high, but disappointing production. I mean, half the total tackles from last year. I don't know. That bothers me. It shows a lack of effort. And we have seen guys like Myles Garrett who his final season at A&M didn't put up insane numbers, and he's bounced back to be one of the best defensive, pass rushers in the NFL. So hopefully that's the Will Anderson trajectory, is he kind of ends up being, a Myles Garrett type. But disappointing production on Will Anderson.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I wonder too sometimes if it's just a lack of that Alabama defense being elite like they have been in the past, where he's getting double teamed a lot more. And before, you'd have guys lining up opposite him that were going to be late first, early second round picks. And I don't know if it's there right now with that either, where some teams are just kind of focusing on shutting him down and giving some pass protection there. But no, I mean, compared to last season he got snubbed and could have easily been a Heisman winner with the stats that he had. But ultimately, yeah, the stats are just not there this year.
I mean, I think that argument is strong, but to go from 101 total tackles last season down to 51, that's too big of a difference. And double teams maybe affect the pass rush, but probably not as much in terms of just like a lot of times these total tackles, that's effort. That's chasing down plays. We see guys like Blake Martinez in the NFL where he finished seasons with 110 tackles because he was just a middle linebacker that would 5th round pick, but a middle linebacker that would put in massive energy into just chasing down plays. And we didn't see that out of Will Anderson.
What bowl game you're looking forward to, Joe? We'll close out this section, get into NFL.
I am loving this LSU Purdue matchup, actually. Well, I just see points for days between these two offenses. I mean, Purdue outside of that, and Purdue put up a nice showing against Michigan in terms of, at least in the first half, offensively, and obviously kind of got shut down a little bit in the second half, but their offense all season has been pretty strong. Your boy, what's that fuck back? Yeah, so that offense will be really strong. And then LSU, Jaden Daniels on that other side with Kayshon Booty Sweat. He's coming back. So that makes me think he's going to be playing. I would assume he's going to be playing in this game.
You got to be thinking that.
Kayshon is going to be playing in this game. So you've got a couple different, you got some nice offensive weapons on LSU. And I just think this is going to be points for days on January 2nd, which that does fall on a Monday. That does fall on Monday, but that is a federal holiday as well. So hopefully enough people have off to enjoy the show.
I'm looking forward to the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville between South Carolina and Notre Dame. Got Marcus Freeman trying to get his first bowl win after the not great performance last year. And Shane Beamer's crew's been absolutely rolling. Spencer Rattler's looked good the last couple of weeks. So I'm looking forward to see how that South Carolina offense stacks up against the defense and see if they can get some momentum going into next year. You'd imagine Spencer Rattler coming back. He had a solid performance down the stretch, like I said, but his stock still is not there. So see if they can get some momentum. And then one honorable mention I do have to shout out here, Cincinnati versus Louisville. Louisville's head coach.
That's awesome. That's like right down the street.
Well, and
Cincinnati and Louisville.
Scott Satterfield, Louisville's head coach, took the Cincy job. So they are playing each other. Also, fun fact, I would imagine most head coaches, they're just up in the booth and not actually down on the sidelines. But this bowl game at Fenway, both benches are on the same side of the field. So that also is very interesting.
Wow.
If he should be down on the sideline, does he just stand at the 50-yard line?
He might just stand. He needs to stand on the furthest corner.
Right.
No, he should be at the 50.
Funny.
He should just be at the 50 the whole time. Have his,
he's got one of those jerseys that's half and half, just down the middle and sewed together.
The Brady Quinn sister jersey.
Yes. But
love it.
Thought that was funny. All right, NFL Week 14 is here for most of us. This is the final week of the fantasy football regular season, so a lot on the line there. Pretty solid set of games for the most part. I don't know. There's quite a few with playoff implications here. I'm looking forward to Jets Bills. Jets are at the Bills in this one. Jets coming off of that tough loss against Minnesota this last week, and curious to see what Mike White looks like against his Bills defense. And this is the Jets' pretty much last chance to stay in the division race. If they lose this one, they fall 3 games behind the Bills. The Dolphins are only a game behind the Bills right now. So this one has a lot of implications for that AFC East. And I want to see how Buffalo does again. Like I had mentioned last episode when we were talking the Chiefs, Bengals, and Bills. I just want to see if the Bills can start gaining some momentum. They were the odds. They had to have been the odds-on Super Bowl favorite going into this season with the performance that they had last season, bringing in a few guys. Gabe Davis had stepped up in the playoff games. So we thought you're going to have a big season from him as well. But just curious on Jets Bills and if Jets can make this one interesting, and again, see if the Bills can kind of gain some momentum heading into the playoffs. And big battle in the AFC East. Yeah,
I mean, the Bills have kind of been struggling a little bit. I mean, they did end up really, they had ended up having a nice week this past week, but against the Patriots. But let's be honest about that Patriots offense. It's led by freaking Matt Patricia.
The Bears beat them.
The Bears beat them. I
think that was the Bears' last win.
Yikes.
I would have to check. I think that actually was.
That might be. They needed a game-winning kick against the Lions on Thanksgiving. So, and the Jets they just keep they're just hot. I mean, Mike White's been nice. Almost took the victory against Minnesota. You got to give the Jets a pretty legit shot here. I think
Yep, that was the Bears' last win in Foxborough way, way back.
That's a long time ago. It's crazy because the Bears, Fields has been really nice. Yeah. They just can't get any W's, which, hey, good for them. They can, maintain that high draft spot. But God, I love this NFL draft, which the Rams being at number 3. Oh, that's going to the Lions. The Broncos being at number 5. Oh, that's going to the Seattle. Seahawks. So great. And the Bears, who look promising, are going to have number 2 right now?
They're at 2 right now. So they're probably looking at Will Anderson, Jalen Carter on defense, or trading back maybe into their early teens, grab a wide receiver, pick up a 2nd or 3rd round pick for a quarterback needy team that wants up there.
Which, there are enough. Yep. So wouldn't shock me one bit. Maybe they go for some other random quarterback like they did last time they had the number 2 pick when they
traded up for
took
that
Trubisky. All right. Well, I want to jump over into I guess I'll stick with the conversation in the NFC North and Vikings Lions.
Oh, I had that down too.
Right now, the Lions are favorites by 3.
I wanted to ask you that. That was one of my points is when was the last time you saw a 10-win team as an underdog on the road to a 5-win team?
To the Lions. Anybody that's a dog to the Lions, but seriously, a double-digit win team?
Yeah.
As a 3-point dog? Like, that's nuts. But I kind of think they should be favorites here. Vikings struggled with the Jets. Granted, the Jets are, I think, legit, but the Lions have been playing really, really nice ball. We mentioned this on the last episode that half of their games, 6 out of their 12 games, they put up 30 points or more. The only thing, if I'm a betting man, which I am, Kirk Cousins at noon.
Lights out,
baby. I could see him. I mean, seriously, we could see Kirk Cousins going for 420 on this one in this game and
smoke it up.
Oh, blaze. You think Kirk blazes? Kind of doubt it.
No.
Goody two shoes. but I mean, this game doesn't have any sort of massive impact on the play in terms of the playoff picture. Lions aren't going to make it, but the Vikings are fighting for that 2 seed right now with the Cowboys. So it's a pretty big game for Minnesota to get this W and to go in as dogs. I mean, if you're that head coach, if you're Kevin O'Connell, don't you tell him we're underdogs in this game? Let's go kick some ass. Like you have to think that way.
Yeah. No, like you said, I'm looking forward to this one as well. I had to do a double take. Like I said, when I saw the Lions were 1.5 point favorites, I was just like, wait, what? Is this a typo right now?
That line has already come down to 1.5. Because when I was looking earlier, it was, I think, 2.5 or 3.
Okay.
So that line's already come down that much.
Just crazy still. But no, I think this one should be good. And I think it's going to be points on points on points in this one. So this is one for fantasy purposes. I want all of my shares. I got Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown rolling in Dynasty. So I am a happy man this week watching that Vikings Lions game. Well, you took my second one. So my last one that I'm looking forward to here, Dolphins at Chargers. This is a must-win game for them. They fall below 500 right now. They're not going to make the playoffs with the AFC East right now. So they need to right the ship against this Dolphins team. Tua's a little banged up. We don't know if Jalen Waddle is going to go in this one. So this is one that the Chargers, being at home, should win. But a lot of the games that the Chargers should win this year, they have not. So, but this is one that the Chargers are in must-win scenario right now.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers are dogs in this game, which
it should.
You say the Chargers should win this game. I say they should be dogs. I mean, I don't know the status of Terron Armstead. That's a big deal. That tackle for the offensive tackle for the Dolphins, because we did see Tua look very skittish against the Niners this past weekend. And the Chargers do have some really nice pass rushers. So if Armstead's out, then that could change things, I think, in terms of how I think of this game. But, oh my God, the Chargers, if they lose this, they're under 500 this late in the season. Like, you can't can Staley at this point, but because they are still fighting for a spot. But oh my God, this would be a massive loss for the Chargers. But I think almost more than anything, if the Dolphins end up winning this game, you've got Burrow, Herbert, Tua in the top 6 picks from 3 drafts ago. 3 drafts ago.
COVID year.
Right. This is that Tua Herbert, 5 and 6.
Debate,
Tua went 5, Herbert went 6. I think we can all, it's pretty much settled, at least for me. Burrow at 1. absolutely the right pick. I think general consensus is probably Herbert should have been picked above Tua. If the Dolphins had to do this draft over again, I'm sure they would take Herbert. Yeah. But Miami, these Dolphins fans are like, they're just burning up Twitter like, oh, Herbert, you suck. You can't even get a 500 team. Like this would, if the Chargers beat the Dolphins here, that would shut them up a little bit. But if the Dolphins beat the Chargers here, I don't know if that settles any sort of quarterback debate, but it makes the Tua argument look a lot nicer. So kind of interesting there between and geez, that's a really nice class, or at least top 6 picks. 3 of those top 6 picks being Burrow, Herbert, and now Tua finally looking nice this season. Was that the firing the coach that got fired from the Dolphins? Makes it look a little bit more justified this year with yes. what Mike McDaniels is doing. So
that's for sure.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. Next game I want to hit on, God, Chiefs Broncos. That's going to be the ugliest. That's going to be the ugliest game on the slate. Broncos are going to score another 9 points, I bet. Niners, Bucks at Niners. Brock Purdy's first ever NFL start against the woeful Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That offense has not done anything this season. Brady's led them on 2 game-winning drives in the final minute this season. That's how they got 2. That's how they have 2 extra wins. The first 3 quarters and 10 minutes, the Bucs have been useless. The final 2 minutes, they've finally shown up. Do you think Brock Purdy here stands a chance against the Bucs? They are coming in as favorites here. And Purdy looked nice last weekend, but you do now have an additional week to prepare for Purdy. And honestly, you're going to look at his preseason tape and probably his Iowa State tape. There's obviously not very minimal NFL tape to look at. So do you give the edge here to the Niners or the Bucs?
I still like the Niners in this one. Purdy looked okay last week, and he wasn't turning the ball over. He was moving the offense. And like we had talked about yesterday, it's quick passes. They're not looking to throw the ball deep. It's just quick plays. They do a lot of screens. They do a lot of jet sweeps in this offense. I mean, CMC's there too. So he's got a lot of weapons around him that Tampa has to focus on as well. And San Francisco's defense is good too. And if Tampa comes out like they did last week, the Saints offense is garbage. The Saints had any sort of offense last week, they would have been fine and would have ended up winning that game, and Tampa Bay wouldn't have had the chance to come back in that one. So if Tampa Bay comes out flat like they did for 3.5 quarters this week, they're not going to win this game. I think San Francisco will be fine, but we'll see. I mean, this is Tom Brady's time of the year that he ends up showing up, and they could end up making a run and get into the playoffs here. But I do like San Francisco in this one.
What does that show you about the status of Jameis? Where they keep giving Andy Dalton these starts. Is Jameis that awful? Is this a horrible coaching decision?
I think it's a horrible coaching decision, and I think it's just one that the Saints are like, we don't have our long-term answer here right now. Maybe they try and somehow get a quarterback in the draft, but
they don't have a first round pick. They sent that to the Eagles, who now Philly also has a high first round pick.
Yeah, no, I don't know. They're just a mess, and that's why Sean Payton got out and he saw the writing on the wall. He's
salute like, to that gentleman.
Yep. He's like, I'm out.
Salute to Sean Payton. Got out at the perfect time, because he's like, Jameis ain't it. We have no prospects for any sort of an answer. I'm going to take a year off, and now I'm going to go coach Herbert or Kyler or Russell Wilson, who looks like shit, but maybe not under Sean Payton. Like, good work, Sean Payton.
Yep. Any other honorable mentions you want to throw in quick, Joe, before we get to our Drew locks?
Yeah, I mean, just super quick. Ravens Steelers. that game is almost always a Sunday night or Monday night game. This is getting buried in the noon slate.
Dang.
That shows how poor this Steelers team is.
Kenny
and granted,
Pickett,
it's
Tyler Huntley.
And it's Kenny Pickett, Tyler Huntley. Like that's always a game that I love and look forward to on a Sunday night. And for that to get buried on a noon game, that's, if CBS has priority here for their games, you're going to have Jets Bills above Ravens Steelers, I would imagine. So, God, that's just those two franchises are, Lamar's out, obviously, so maybe that, that kind of dampens the overall appeal of this game already, but they haven't been good this year either, even with Lamar. They've still been disappointing. So that's all. Just Ravens Steelers buried in a noon game. It's a shame.
On to our Drew Locks. If you're new to the show, welcome in. This is a segment each week. Jell and I dive into fantasy a little bit. We pick a quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end. Once you pick a player, you cannot use them again, and you cannot use the same player as your opponent does for that week. And we keep a running total of fantasy points. Jell has a 52-point lead. We had a pathetic performance last week from our running back and tight end positions. So
sure did.
Don't need to get into that much, but I have some work to do with time running out in the season. It is an even week 14, so I have the first pick, and going with a strategy, Jell, that you have employed quite a bit this season so far. Did not work out well for you last week with Nick Chubb, but I am going to go with Tony Pollard in a nice, juicy matchup against that awful Houston defense, and should get a lot of run. This is one that I don't know if you're going to grab his counterpart at all in this, but you could pretty much flip a coin here. Tony Pollard, like we were talking off air here, he has been the better running back of these two this season. So I'm going to give him the edge here, but I think either one are going to have a nice week this week.
Don't blame you one bit. That Texans grabbing a good back against the Texans has generally worked out for me all season. So stick with it. Stick with the formula. And I am jealous. I would have gone Tony Pollard number one overall as well. Hey, follow me at DasGel on Twitter. I'm gonna go grab that wide receiver position. I got DK Metcalf against the Panthers. We saw Tyler back-to-back Hawks.
All right.
Tyler Lockett last week had a nice week with another touchdown that extends his streak to 5 straight games with a touchdown. But DK Metcalf also had a touchdown last week with an additional 127 yards and 8 receptions. I'm going to ride that momentum against a crappy Carolina team that really has nothing to play for, and Seattle has a lot to play for. Also, with Kenneth Walker likely being out this upcoming week, that means they're going to probably air it out a little bit. DJ Dallas can only take you so far.
Well, he's been banged up too, so it could end up having a Travis
Homer
week.
Hardly know her. So I'm gonna lock in Mr. DK Metcalf as my wideout.
I like it. I'm gonna go over to the tight end position. I am used all the big names this season, so I'm gonna roll with a guy that one of the wide receivers on this team is a little banged up. One has underperformed, and the quarterback is awful, but somehow makes this tight end semi-relevant each week. And I'm going to go with Greg Dulcich, Denver Broncos tight end against Kansas City. They're going to be down in this one, having to throw the ball to try and get back into this one. And I think you might be able to find a little bit of a diamond in the rough here. Maybe you can scrape out a touchdown, should get 5+ catches from Greg Dulcich and at least get some points on the board here.
Don't blame me one bit. That was one of the tight ends I was kind of considering there. He did have a nice week last week.
Yeah.
So it looks like he's kind of taken over that role for Alberto. Not going to try the last name. Alberto it is for that Denver tight end spot. But Dulcich looks nice. So I'm okay with that. A lot of bye weeks, like you said.
Yes.
All right. Well, let me, I guess I might as well lock in my tight end position while we're at it. And I'll go Dalton Schultz against the good old Texans here. So Mr. Dalton it is.
I like it.
Not related to Andy.
I'm going to go with the quarterback that is fighting to keep his team in the playoffs, and I'm going to roll Justin Herbert this week. Miami has been susceptible on defense, so I'm hoping that Justin Herbert maybe punches in a rushing touchdown in this one, or at least has a couple dump offs to Austin Eckler. Sounds like Mike Williams is going to be practicing this week, so should get maybe a little bit of a boost in the offense there if he's able to give it a go. So haven't used Justin Herbert yet, and
lucky
Purdy had a nice matchup against the Dolphins last week, so hopefully Herbert can do the same this week.
You know, I was thinking about going Purdy here, but I guess I'll go Dak for my QB1
action.
get the old quarterback tight end stack rocking on, and Mr. Dakota Prescott's fresh out of Mississippi State.
I like it.
Number one overall at one point, Mississippi State.
Yep. I had a good year that year. My last and final positions, my wide receiver position. I'm going to take a wide receiver in a matchup we talked about a little bit earlier in that Vikings-Lions matchup that should be points on points on points. And this guy has not used Justin Jefferson yet. So
what the hell? Oh my God.
Yes. So he should put up a good 20 points this week.
That sucks. I was actually very much considering going Thielen here as my wideout. So we almost doubled down on Viking receivers and we are going to double down on Cowboys running backs. It's Ezekiel Elliott against the Texans for my running back. So I got 3 Cowboys, Dak, Zeke, and I almost said Andy Dalton Schultz, and Josh is rolling out there a much more awesome lineup in Herbert, Justin Jefferson, Tony Pollard, and Dulcich.
I feel like with us picking 2 Dallas Cowboys running backs, Joe, we have to have a beer chug on this.
Okay, let's do it. Throw one in there. Why not?
Why not? All right. So tune in next week to find out who gets the better of this matchup. See if I can climb my way back into this race with only a few weeks left. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Go to YouTube, type in Dead Arm Sports into that search bar, subscribe, click the bell. That way, you know when our live episodes drop. We monitor that chat box. So that way you can ask us any questions anytime we are recording on there. If you miss out on that, Gel can be found at DOS Gel. I can be found at DOS JPEG. You can hit us up there. Make sure you give us a follow, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot, get you some swag. Gel, what are those platforms?
Hit us up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Google Pods. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review to whatever your chosen listening platform is. Take a screenshot of that written review and send it to us on our socials at Dead Arm Sports on Twitter or Instagram, or just search Dead Arm Sports on Facebook. Once again, YouTube, just search Dead Arm Sports. Be the top thing that you end up finding at the top of your search bar would be our channel, and make sure to subscribe there. Hit that bell for all those notifications.
Ding!
There you go.
Thanks so much for listening. I hope everyone has a fantastic Friday and a great weekend. We are approaching the holiday season. Best of luck if you need a win this week in your fantasy playoffs. I know I need one in one of mine, so I'm wishing myself luck.
I need one and a dominant one.
Yes, you do.
We'll see how this goes.
See how it goes. Close her out, Jill.
1 week from Saturday triple headers. Let's go, NFL.